Welcome back to another Amy Harrill podcast episode. I have the wonderful Amy with me today. Good morning, Amy.
Hi, Sherman. It's so nice to be with you. It's always a treat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hey, I want to chat with you as a follow-up to last week's topic about Wingspan.
Yes.
And I'm sure many of our viewers who are catching up with us are dying and salivating about, okay, how do I think through this? How do I put skin around this? What are some of the processes one can keep in their minds as that are the critical wingspan concepts?
So can I quickly touch on the wingspan conversation again?
Yes, let's do that. Let's unpack that again.
Okay. For many people that have read any of my stuff or have been listening to the last few episodes, you know that I have a bit of an obsession with the Wright brothers. It is not because I live in North Carolina. It is because these guys were able to do something no one else was able to do in a completely different way. Now, if you are a business owner or you have a company that you're leading, you would know that the third reason that businesses are closing is because of the lack of differentiation. The internet has made it so hard for us to stand out. And I think that Orville and Wilbur Wright are a brilliant case study in differentiation because, Sherman, as you and I talked about last week, in 1903, the race was on to see who could get the first human launched into flight. Most all of their competition focused on the engine and its size and its speed, and it created some of the most powerful engines of our time. But at that time, they sat on the ground and were pretty to look at, and no one could get them off the ground. No one knew how to make those engines fly. So the Wright brothers took a completely different approach and they focused on the wingspan. They knew that if they could get the aerodynamics right and they could get the wingspan, they wouldn't need a flashy engine. They just needed a simple gas engine, and then they could apply it to that glider plane and it would fly. And sure enough, they tested the glider. It could fly without an engine. So it will be able to fly with an engine. And I put before the audience that, maybe a new idea that I believe that the digital marketing industry and even well-meaning marketing experts are recreating the obsession of the engine from 1903. They're telling us to focus on the fastest traffic sources, but ignoring the system to convert it. When we're talking about the wingspan, we talked about there's only two things that really matter in business. And it comes down to two very simple things. And if we will just obsess on these things, the rest will take care of itself. And the first one is always and consistently acquiring that ideal client, having a full bench of prospective clients. And then always and consistently giving that ideal client group what they want first. So we talked about how to figure out what do they want and how do we always acquire that ideal client group in the last episode. So today, when you put before me what are processes, a lot of people see systems of technology like Monday.com, or you and I use Trello. There's also Slack. There's all these things that people feel are going to condense their working hours, right? But in essence, what we are doing is we are strapping a more powerful engine to a fundamentally flawed plane if we have not actually focused on processing the marketing and the model first. Some very simple processes that I have found work brilliantly is, number one, do I have a process for research and development? And is it simple to duplicate? So in my world, it took me 18 years. I found 6 questions and 3 ways to research. And it was so simple, I could duplicate it. And I have almost 1,000 times over. And it consistently returns the information that helps me always acquire the ideal client for myself and my clients, and also helps us keep the bench full. So the first process I would say we need to focus on is research and development.
Okay. And is there 2 critical processes or many critical processes, but one of them is ours?
Yeah, there's a few critical processes. Now, many business consultants, which that's what I am, I also feel are recreating the engine obsession of 1903 because they have these leaders believing that they've got to have tons of critical processes. Like everything is important, so nothing is important, kind of. And
Sure.
so there really are only a few critical processes: research and development, having something that is solid and can be duplicated and simple to pass off and simple for someone else to
Mhm.
do, where you don't need technology to do it. You can do it human to
Okay.
human, you can do it on a paper and pen. And then when you strap technology to it, or you strap a Monday.com to it, it just takes flight, right? It just duplicates
Mm.
itself over and over. By having that research and development process in place and tested and able to be duplicated, now you can apply what you're learning in the R&D for marketing to your model throughput process. The research and development process is critical. The second most
Mhm.
critical process that I would challenge us to think about is, do we have a way to capture questions and concerns that the client brings to us on a consistent basis? So, for
Mm.
example, I'll give you two examples. I'll give you an example from a retail perspective, and I'll give you an example from a consulting perspective. One's a service based
Mhm.
business, one is a retail based business. So, in the retail
Mhm.
based business, one thing that we started to pay attention to was, we noticed that when people came in, they were looking at certain price tags and deciding to leave. Like, they wouldn't tell us, but we were observing, okay, they're looking at this price tag and they're leaving. And it just so happened that those price points were towards the front of the store. All right, how can we find out if it's the price point, or if it's the product, or if it's our culture inside retail establishment, which was very niche. It was like, if we got 3 clients a day, now they spent a lot of money, but that's really all we needed. It was very, very niche. We're not talking about Walmart. We're talking about very niche,
That's
high-end
right.
luxury. And so they would walk in the door, and I started to give my internal staff a pen and paper. And I said, I want you to start by asking them a question. What brings you in today? And see where they go, and just jot it down in the notebook. Are they going
Mhm.
over here to this expensive price point and leaving first, or are they walking around the store and then leaving? We came to find out was that we were attracting a certain clientele that was a working, like a professional young
Working
mother,
professional.
and they were used to shopping for their clothes at Target. So
Oh.
they would come in and say, I want something nice for my baby shower, but I didn't really want to go to Target because everybody shops there. So we said, okay, what is the price point that you're looking for? So we were able
Mm.
to extract a pattern of a problem that was being presented to us in person marketplace and say, okay, we can address this. We
Mhm.
shifted inventory and we brought in some mid range apparel that would meet their
Mhm.
needs, so their price point, and not question the integrity of our quality. Right. That created a process which I like to call the proof of concept worksheet. So now in the service based industry, all these years later, my clients get this process called proof of concept worksheet. And they are to
Mhm.
take it into every conversation and listen to the questions that the client is asking them during consultations. At the end of 30 days, they go back and look at those questions, see what is the pattern that's emerging. Where are they asking the question in the process of consultation? Is it because you're not providing something? Is it because you're providing something, but at the wrong place in the chain? And so it's this
Mhm.
set of processes that help us to hone down on only one or two problems at a time. So we're continually restructuring, not changing our expertise, restructuring where we put different pieces of the expertise based on what the client is telling us they want the most. So those two processes, research and development, and really being able to dial down on what could we do better for the client, are very important. And I don't mean like a survey into their inbox after they
Mm.
have shopped with you. It's much more it's much more intimate than that.
This is rich. It's tomahawk steak rich and meaty.
Too much, you guys. Is it too much of a water hose? You just be honest with that.
And when you think of it as the 30,000 foot view. It makes sense. But then I notice so much under there. It's not rocket science. It's simple enough, but it comes at such a different approach that is different than what is being promoted in the marketplace. This is the building the foundational framework of your skyscraper so that you can go at a fast pace if you
Yeah.
want to,
Mhm.
not have a house built on sand.
Yes, exactly. And I think in our next episode, we're going to talk about how you manage these processes. But I also, when we get back together, Sherman, I want to talk about the ant because there's a lot I've learned about
Mhm.
processes and
Mhm.
duplication from that little tiny insect that I hate, but I love.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship with it.
Have taught me so much and have bitten me so many times.
As we wrap up today's episode, there's so much in here that is meaty. What can our viewer or listener take away to put some skin around it and maybe try
Mhm.
something, execute something?
Mhm.
What could they leave with?
I would say to attend to choose one of these processes. And on the research and development side, I would evaluate. This would be the question you would want to answer. When you look at the research, does the research tell you from your most idyllic client, but also from people that don't know you? Do you have a
Mhm.
research process that answers two questions? What is their most pressing problem? And what is their secret desire? If your
Mm,
research process doesn't give you those two answers, you're basically just you're shooting with a gun blindfolded, especially if you're trying to use
mhm.
technology. Then the throughput process, which is your model and developing it and making it, the question that I would pose for you to ask yourself is, does the process I have in place tell me what the client wants from me consistently? Okay, if they're coming into my retail establishment, they're not just buying my clothes, they want a certain experience. If they're coming to me as a consultant, they don't just want something I've built for them, they actually want my attention. But that's what my throughput process answers for me. So, those would be the two questions I would evaluate your research and development and also your throughput process.
That's incredible. So, what is their most pressing problem and what is their deepest desire?
Yep.
And also on the modeling side, does my process tell me what my clients want from me consistently?
Yep. Not one off, but consistently.
That's incredible. Simple but powerful. Thanks,
Yeah.
Amy.
Yeah. Thank you,
That's
Sherman.
great. So, as we wrap up today's episode, this is some great, oh man, amazing steak to chew on for the rest of this week till we come back next week, where we speak to you about the powerful love-hate relationship that Amy has with ants.
Yes. Oh, thanks, guys.
That's awesome. We'll see you next week. Take care. Cheers.